Hello and welcome to A Cup of Tea with Dr. Zee, where we share everyday stories with you, everyday women. Are you ready to hear heart-to-heart key issues that we all face, no matter where we are in the world? So grab your cup of tea and let's welcome your host, author, international speaker, reinvention strategist, and woman that's full of faith in God and mankind, Dr. Zena Arinzi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to A Cup of Tea with me, Dr. Z. How are you? Welcome again. This is Friday, another Friday. I don't know where you are around the world, whether you're here in the UK, in the States, Australia, Estonia. You'll be asking me why I'm talking about Estonia, whether you're in Russia, whether you're in France, whether you're in Jamaica, Nigeria, Ghana, Afghanistan, wherever it is you are around the world, and that's where my geography ends. But thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're joining, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on LinkedIn, on Instagram, you can just put in the comments where you're dialing in from or where you're watching from. That will be amazing. We have a blast of a show today. Now, today we're talking about, what are we talking about? Who knows what we're talking about? We're talking about, so you think you are hospitable. So you think you are hospitable. Some of you will think, what are you talking about, hospitable? Are you talking about hospital? No, I'm not talking about hospitals. I'm talking about hospitality, being hospitable, being kind, being welcoming, being gracious, and then extending it even further. And we all think that we're hospitable, but are we really? Now, I've got an amazing guest in the green room just waiting to descend upon all of you and tell you all about what it means to really be hospitable, what it really means to kind of test yourself and analyze and look at targets to really see how hospitable you are. And for those of you that have never joined me, welcome again. This is where we spotlight extraordinary women doing everyday things, or let's say it the other way around. Every day we've been doing extraordinary things. It's Friday, so give me some grace. Every day we've been doing extraordinary things around the world. And it's an opportunity for being able to spotlight all kinds of women, because let's face it, we're talking about gender pay gaps, we're talking about equality, we're talking about all sorts of things, but we have to create those tables and then, or those rooms, or those boxes, and put ourselves in there. We have to create those platforms. And there are many people around the world who will never get the opportunity to talk about what they do. And they might be listening and say, Dr. Zena, it's easy for you to say you can talk, you're amazing. Yes, I am amazing. And so are you. We are all amazing women. But I want you to know that wherever you are listening, I want you to know that you also have a story to share. You also have a version of yourself that you want to use to impact somebody else, the next generation, but also that you are not invisible. Through me, through my guests, through other people, your story will be told, and you have an opportunity to be inspired, to be empowered, to get that kick you need up the blessed assurance, to move forward, to take what belongs to you in this little world that we have. We all have our own version of the world, but I want you to know that your life does deserve being spotlighted, just like my life. All women, it doesn't matter shape, size, wherever you're from, tribe, gender, whatever, we all deserve to be spotlighted. So today's show is really going to be amazing. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this guest of mine. I met this guest about just over a year ago, and it was in really funny, hilarious circumstances, and we'll need another show to talk about that. But suffice it to say that the first day I met her, I knew immediately that she was an amazing woman. And I'm not just saying this. Every time I say this to her, she says, yeah, right. So I knew that she was an amazing woman, extremely hospitable, very welcoming, very, very level-headed, very neat and tidy. That's a different story, but very level-headed. And one thing I saw about her that I really cherish is the fact that she treats everyone the same. And that is an amazing thing, because normally you see people, and it depends, people have airs and graces, but not this guest of mine. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Now, her name is Nele Magi. And for those of you that are maybe from the Caribbean or from Africa, West Africa, Maggi sauce that you put in, your rice and stew. It's not that, Maggie, although I'm sure she's heard this. I can see her laughing in the green room. She's heard this joke so many times. I just have to say, Maggie sauce. So basically, my guest here is like, in fact, she's actually like Maggie sauce. She's the extra sauce that you put on things that make things sweet, make things go better, make organizations grow, make organizations profitable, make clients and customers feel so great. She's the extra sauce. So I'm going to tell her that. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my amazing guest. Now, like you've been hearing me talk about hospitality. Now, she is a hospitality enthusiast. She really is. And she has over a decade of experience. She's done so many things with regards to hotels, performance, targets, being driven, data analytics. She's originally from Estonia. That's why I talked about Estonia. You will wonder, why is Zena talking about Estonia? She's never spoken about Estonia. I'll tell you a little bit about Estonia. Estonia is actually one of the best countries, I think, in the whole world, but in Europe in terms of technology. And when I bring my next guest, she'll tell you all about it. Technology, the internet. In fact, if you've heard about Bolt, the competitor with Uber, Bolt is actually an Estonian company. Need I say more? So she's originally from Estonia. She's got a lovely BA in tourism and business and management, and she's currently a director in a Fortune 500 organization. Obviously, for confidentiality, we don't talk about people's organizations, but suffice it to say that she has managed clients on Wall Street, clients with banks, all sorts of funds. And I'm so grateful and privileged and honored to invite my lovely guest, Nele, Magi. Yeah. Drum roll. I'm going to bring her in. I can see her. She's laughing. She says, Zena's mad. She always says that. Nele. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Zena.
Hiya. Welcome to the show. I'm so grateful that you were able to come. I did make some tea, but I forgot to tell you about your cup, because I was going to pour you a cup. Have you got a cup nearby? And pour you some tea?
Wait.
All right, I will wait. I know it.
It's not a cup. It's a whole liter of tea.
No, this is
and
all right. This is all right.
Peppermint with honey, because the weather requires it now.
Fantastic. And I like pink. Pink is one of my favorite colors. I've got my teapot, but you beat me to it. So fantastic. So welcome to the show, Nelly. I could see you laughing in the green room and all that. But I want to start with, let's just see. We've got people already saying hello, Pamela. Oh, how are you, darling? All the way from Manchester on YouTube. Fantastic. Hello, Alero. Okay, this is really amazing. Please, if you're just joining, don't forget to put where you're watching from. That is really, really amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. Anyway, as I was going to say, my first question to you, Nelly, is when we talk about hospitality, what does that mean to you?
It means to me being welcome, and not just in sort of your own home welcoming others, but that wherever you go, you are welcome and you get to learn. You get to experience new sites, countries, cities, places, and you get to eat some amazing food.
Yes.
And I am definitely very food motivated. So, one of my favorite parts about hospitality is going to restaurants, enjoying everything, all the good stuff that there is to eat.
I'm with you there 100%. I absolutely love going to restaurants. I love my food as well. So I like that. I love that a lot. Now, I want to share a little bit about your personal background, if I may. What drew you to the intersection? Because when we speak and I think about the things that you do, hospitality and data analytics. When people think about hospitality, they think about hotels, they think about waiters, they think about people front of house, they think about people that do beds and stuff, and sometimes people treat them really terribly. I know that the hospitality industry really suffered immensely during COVID-19, because many of them are on 0 hours and all that. Well, what people don't know is that a lot of work goes into that amazing industry. If I go to a hotel in Dubai or something and my room is not quite so, I give up. I give a fuss. I make a fuss. And then, the manager would come and say, oh, don't worry, maybe you might get an upgrade out of it, or maybe, like what's happened to me, I've been able to go to that hotel again and again and again. But what people don't understand is what goes behind it. Why? And so I just want to ask you, what drew you to that?
I don't actually know, because I remember thinking about tourism when I was around 10 and thinking, I want to work in tourism. And at the time, I had no idea how you got involved. And it's sort of, but I just remember seeing videos and travel shows and documentaries about amazing places. And I was like, yep, that is what I want to do. I will point out that I work in an office now. But strangely enough, after I finished high school in Estonia, I sort of looked around a little, and I went to University College Birmingham and got my bachelor's in tourism business management. And quite frankly, had you given me a business to manage after that, I would have sunk it in 2 seconds flat, and I would have had no idea what to do. But to get practical experience, I worked in hotel reception during my studies, and that is where I really, really fell in love with hotels. And yes, you absolutely do have, like everywhere, customers that sometimes are not the greatest and can treat staff and think that just because somebody is working in housekeeping that they somehow are less, or somebody's a waiter that they have to do everything for them, which is a silly notion. The last hotel where I worked at, although we were a 4-star hotel, we were beating 5-star hotels in London with our rates and with our TripAdvisor reviews. And that was purely because, coming from our management, they made sure that everybody in the organization was included in the hotel performance, meaning that every month we would have meetings where we would talk about EBITDA, we would talk about guest reviews. The whole hotel made sure that when your name as a staff member was mentioned in a feedback form, you got rewarded. So you had the incentive to be the best. But one of the departments that had the highest scores in our hotel was our housekeeping staff, because the managers and the people working there took pride in their work they did. It may not at first seem glamorous. You'll have to go and clean a room and sort of change a bed, but it starts from there. So you mentioned that if you go to a hotel in Dubai and the room isn't quite like that, well, how do you feel about the whole experience afterwards, right? You that will be the first thing you remember about that hotel. But if your room is amazing, then you're already looking at the whole experience in a lot more positive way. So the ability that I at first sort of saw in reception, when depending on how you greet someone, after a while you kind of learn to read their body language and go, okay, this person wants to have a chat, this person just wants their key. And when you become better and faster at reading those cues, you can cut off any or improve situations, or potentially make sure to minimize any sort of negative communication. So it's just, I love people, and at times when you would see the people who come in for the weekend to enjoy the city where I worked at, and you can see that joy and enthusiasm in their face. I feel like you don't really see that if you go into anywhere else, in any other type of business, general business sort of way. Yes, people can be excited about shopping, but it's a very limited interaction. But when you come and stay in a hotel, you get excited, ooh, what room are we going to get? Am I potentially going to get an upgrade? I'm going to be a bit cheeky and ask, what's going to happen if you, and then you go to your room and you see it. And it's that, I love just the white, clean bedding of a hotel and that crispiness. And then you see your room, you're super happy. You get to enjoy the breakfast. Depend on what type of hotel you are, but potentially other, restaurant F&B options. If you are in a hotel because of a conference or event, you are quite in a business mindset, and potentially you don't want to talk to a lot of people. But then I quite quickly identified that in those circumstances, people tend to travel alone,
Yes.
and it depends on how they feel, but who can they feel safe in chatting with,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it is the staff,
Yes.
so the waiters, the bartenders, the reception staff, anybody else from room service that will help. And when you can make that person's experience, and when you can help make their day better, or if they're not having the greatest day, and you can kind of make sure to help them get into their room and give them time to compose themselves, or talk about the new special cocktail that we
Yeah.
have on sale today. Even that can just bring them back from the negative mindset into a little bit more positive. So I talked a lot now, but
No, I like that, because even as you were speaking, I could pull out many things from there. I remember, I tend to travel on my birthday, just before my birthday. I just want to be, sometimes I go with friends, sometimes I go by myself. And this last birthday, I was in Portugal. Now, I missed my flight. So I was, I was really upset. I mean, okay, fair enough. I had lounge, so I stayed in the lounge, and I went to the first lounge, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, if your flight, because I had your flight is now at 5 o'clock, so you can't stay, all that time. You've got, like, I think 2 or 3 hours in the lounge." So I went to a different lounge, and they didn't look at my book, and I just stayed there all day. I was working, I was doing content, doing all sorts of things, and then by the time I got to my hotel, it was now nighttime. I tried to travel in such a way that I have the whole day, so I just leave my things, go to the beach and whatever. By this time, I'd arrived in the evening, and the next day was my birthday. And so I was like, they said, "Oh, you're looking really, really sad." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really tired. I missed my flight. So this is the second flight, and it's my birthday tomorrow." "It's your birthday tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yes." And it was like, I got an upgrade immediately. And normally I would try, but I didn't even try. I was just, I'm normally quite a cheerful person, but I was just like, "Oh God," so I got an upgrade immediately. It was fantastic. And you're right, I got told about the cocktail, so obviously by the time I'd finished, I was already ready for the birthday. I was happy before I even got, without sort of very, very, very happy. And I, had 2 or 3 of those cocktails, and, I'd left in the next day. That was my birthday. I'd gone to the beach, and when I'd come back, they'd done my room, they'd put petals, they'd put a bottle of wine and everything. So, I hear what you're saying. They went the extra mile. And anytime I go back to that part of Portugal, that would be the hotel that I'm going to go to. And you were talking about ratings, and it's quite interesting. If you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to right now, or on the replay, that yes, it's good to look at TripAdvisor, but it's always good to look at look at people's comments. I actually read people's comments, and they talk about, and sometimes they mention people's names. Maxwell was fantastic. The hotel was rubbish, but Maxwell was this, and then so you kind of have an idea of the kind of feeling that you would have, the kind of experience. And I think for everyone in hospitality, like you're right, listen, whether it's a conference and you want to be by yourself, or whether it's something, going on a girls' night out or girls' weekend, or you're going on a lads' holiday, whatever it is, everyone wants that experience from start to finish to be really, really great. And we just see, like you said, the front of house stuff. We don't see all the other things that go in behind it, all the profitability, all the data that you have to analyze to figure out what. So this is really, really amazing. Now, just coming back to that data analytics thing, because I wear so many hats, and yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, but I'm also a woman in tech. So every time I see anything like data analytics, I'm like, "Oh my days, you have to be so smart, so brainy." So I want you to tell us really a little bit about what really got you into that. I know at the beginning you didn't know, but now that you do it, what kind of things do you look for?
So, funnily enough, I am in no way a data or a math person. And I sort of got sort of stumbled into my role through connections. So everyone, make sure you keep your connections warm. But so I've been with my company in various roles just shy of 12 years now. And where it was a very interesting time because the UK and the whole world was just coming out from the credit crunch, and what hotels found, what banks found, that they now own a lot of hotels because of, unfortunately, loans being defaulted, and sort of the question was, well, what on earth are we going to do with them? And normally the analysts and the equity analysts that work in banks don't really deal with operational real estate. And to, if you can think of a financial value for the bricks and mortar for a hotel, but if the hotel is well managed, you can recover lot more of your revenue and make a lot more revenue. And I sort of, where I found my niche with data and me is that being a people person, I understand what people need, and I understand what our analysts have, and I am good at connecting people. So it came with me explaining to analysts, well, what is occupancy, how we calculate it, what is ADR, and when things in certain reports, when numbers go up or down, what does it mean? I have to sort of point out that all the data that I deal with is always aggregated. I do not look at individual hotel data, and there are lots of anti-competition laws that govern what I do. But I found out that I was very, very, it was sort of natural for me to understand what the analysts needed from an equity side, connect them with what we have, explain them through the data. And yes, you, as a guest from in any type of a hospitality venue. Now, I predominantly deal with hotels, but it would apply for any sort of visitor attractions, restaurants. But as a visitor or a guest, you would only see the front of house. You generally wouldn't see. So if we talk hotels, unless you're in the room, you really wouldn't see the housekeeping staff. You're not going to see the kitchen staff, the chefs. You're not gonna see the people who decide on how much you're going to pay. And I found then working in reservations that it was very interesting to kind of go, well, how are we going to decide what would be the appropriate rate to charge on a Monday, on a Wednesday, and being surrounded by amazing mentors and managers who would discuss their reasoning out loud, point out to what systems and what data we used to plan things. I got really interested in thinking, oh, there's an event in town. Well, we have to make sure that being a business for profit, we do capture that performance and we make additional revenue. So really it was sort of managing little levers on what day, how much, what sort of options do we push for more to make sure that the revenue the hotel makes is top dollar, and also that we have then enough staff to cover whatever we need to do. If we do not have enough waiters in the restaurant, are we able to do a dinner service? So if we're not, well, what would be the decisions of either getting additional staff in? What would be the cost of that? What would be the cost of not running a dinner service, but still having a fully staffed kitchen? So all those decisions I found to be very fascinating. And in my current company, I deal with more groups. So and I deal with more owners. So when we have banks as owners, and what they're trying to do is figure out, okay, do we sell this property and try to make whatever money we can? Do we lend additional money so that they can refurbish and potentially improve their performance? Do we not want to lend any money because there's lots of other similar hotels coming up and it doesn't make sense? Should somebody buy a hotel chain to work with consultants so that they have data to prove their stories? So all of that is what happens in the background, and my company is sort of in the center of it all, because I see people from both sides. So clients who, let's just say, banks who want to or don't want to lend money, and companies who want that loan to do things with, and then to kind of explain, well, and not to in any way advise them on what to do, but help them understand what the data does. If there is a increase in occupancy, what does that mean? But
Mm.
again, making sure they understand the basics of it and they themselves interpret the numbers that are suitable for their projects.
I like that because there's so many things as you were talking. I was so fascinated. I didn't want you to stop because I like to learn things that I don't know. I keep thinking I know a lot of things, but there's still a lot of things I don't know, and I don't know. I mean, I only know about the front of house because that's the experience that I experienced as as a guest. But looking at the numbers, if my IT hat, we look at numbers, we look at stats, we look at KPIs, but you never really think that the hospitality industry does the same thing. And so I'm going to ask you something. Don't tell anyone. What day is it best for me to book my hotel? Let me know. Shh. I had to ask that question.
I'll tell you after.
Tell me after. I like that. And one of the reasons why, also apart from me, traveling, by myself, I'm also involved in lots of women's groups, and we're always doing one conference or the other. There's always some women empowerment, or also as a woman of God, there's always some awards ceremony from about now right up until Christmas time. There's always been some, and and I always tell people, you need to book this on time. You need to book this now for next year. And you see people trying to book now and stuff like this. And so it's quite interesting to hear all this, because we only hear it's so expensive. We paid this amount per head. And then I remember when you're in a WhatsApp group and they send, okay, so you're going to have to pay £400 for a weekend. And we're thinking, why? Because that's the only thing that we know, from the organizers. And maybe we think maybe the organizers are making an extra, £100 on top of each, so you're thinking all that. And then you've got organizers speaking to the hotel, trying to figure out, we want this kind of space. We want a conference room here. The women are going to be dancing here. They're going to be doing this, or whatever kind of conference it is. This kind of, whether we're talking about maths, accountancy, whether it's a women's group, whether it's professors, it's always the same sort of thing. But what we don't know is this part that you've been speaking about, and what really goes into the numbers. And so by the time it comes to us, the end users, there's a lot of work that's gone on behind. And so a question I'm going to ask you is, when we talk about women in hospitality, we talk about the stereotypes that what we've already touched on, front of house, being a chef, being a waitress, and all those amazing jobs. But what we haven't really talked about is what we don't actually, is what you've actually highlighted very well. And I just was wondering, in your role, are there many women in that kind of role?
It's getting better. So my role is a little bit unique in what our company does. So it's hard to sort of, in that sense, say yes or no. But if I do think back to the clients that I would email with 10 years ago, to where you make a judgment call in terms of their name would apply agenda, and then to what is now. The picture is a lot better. My very first investment conference I went, you could see the room was filled with majority men, and there are very few women in the room. Now, it is definitely a lot better. Panels are a lot better, because when normally from large organizations, when we talk about banks, people who are whose job is to decide whether the money is being loaned or not, to large private equity funds, where people who are making decisions on whether to acquire hotel chains or not, always tended to be men. And it is pleasant to see that more women are on stages, and more women are walking around in the venue. So in terms of when we talk about purely hotels, I want to say there are a lot more women in the front of house roles. And in the back of house, when we are talking about dealing with more revenue management and financial decisions, it's still large number of those roles are filled by men. but it is changing slowly. I do believe hospitality is still one of the only industries where you can start off in housekeeping and end up as a hotel manager, a revenue manager, a cluster revenue manager when you work for a branded group. So I think women have, and the industry has realized that women have a different viewpoint to men, and it is not just sufficient to just even investment conferences only to see from where the viewpoint from men. The over time, there are a larger and larger number of women traveling. You mentioned that you sometimes go travel on your own. Well, it can be a concern for a lot of women, and so there are hotels and programs where that are where hotels now have to consider, how are we safe for a solo traveler to be in here.
Yeah.
Equally, do we have enough entertainment for solo, for somebody who's traveling solo to still be able to enjoy the hotel, the destination, and to want to come back either by themselves or with others.
Mm.
There is a lot of marketing goes around there where we talk about female only gyms. So there, I perhaps am a capitalist enough where I think, yes, absolutely, as a woman, there should be more women in the industry. But I then go, if we bring more women in, so as consumers for the service, how can we monetize it? So when but to be able to do it properly, unfortunately, you cannot just have a group of men in the room and decide how to do that. Try as they might, it just quite won't work out. So it is a lot more pleasant. My office itself is actually predominantly female. So that's a funny thing. But when we do go out and also the more senior the role, it used to be a lot. I mean, it still is predominantly male dominated, but women are making headway finally. And it is also nice to see, having been involved in organizing some events, not to a degree of conferences, but it is a topic whenever we talk about a panel. Then the question is straight away, okay, but it's men and women. It cannot be just men, because it does not look right, and we do not get the viewpoint from every angle that we can. So it is getting better. I think it's still a lot of work to do. I also think there's I'm not coming this from a data point of view that I have, but the salary discrepancy between
Yes.
men and women in hospitality, I is larger. So it's still, there's a lot of room for improvement in the industry.
I thank you so much, Nelly. I mean, I like, and I just want to shout out, there's quite a few people have been talking in the chat. So I remember I saw Sade just put in something that she works front of house reception. And then someone else, so I was like, shout out to Lady Apostle. Oh, Dr. Precious. Hello, Mrs. Lati. Hello, Fikile, all the way from South Africa. Wow. Hello, Faith from Kent. Hello, Alera. Thank you so much. And if I've missed out your name, please forgive me, as it's flashing up on, oh, hello, Pamela. Yes. And any of you that will watch this on the replay, hello. Now, back to what I was saying, Nelly. I like the fact that you've put a positive spin in the sense that hospitality is a bit like America. I mean, I don't like America in that way. I mean, not that I don't like America, but what I'm trying to say is, in America, it doesn't matter what your background, and you can go to America and you can make it. They say it's a land of opportunity. So when you were describing hospitality, you were saying that someone could start, as a waitress or front of house, or as a cleaner. But if you were, very passionate, you were, you really wanted to move ahead, that you could find yourself, later on, an account manager or something else. And so that's good. So for those that are listening right now, or if you have family members who are in the hospitality industry, I know there's for I don't know, for the frontline staff, I know many of it's 0 hours. I get that, but if you do have the opportunity to get a role that isn't 0 hours and you put your all in, and you have the, the capability and the capacity, and you have the, an inquiry mind, you can move ahead. It's one of the few industries where that is possible. So I like that. That is really a positive spin. I know, guess, hospitality is probably like most other industries in the sense that there's still a massive pay, gender gap. We know that, but I like the fact that it is getting better. And it just comes to a personal question I want to ask you. As a woman yourself in this industry, where you're back of house, as it were, you're like in where you're where the money's made, where money, decisions are made and stuff. And I know it's not going into your pocket and stuff like that, but I know, I wish, because I know you were friends, so at least I would get some too. But but have you found, have you had any challenges being in a male dominated, over the years, in a male dominated environment? Have you felt that you had to work twice as hard or anything like that?
I am lucky enough to say that I haven't felt challenges in that point. Yes, there. When I talk about sort of, I did know my counterpart was a male, was paid more, and it luckily got resolved. But I want to say that what I feel my biggest challenge has been is that as a woman, we are not taught, and yes, I know I come from Estonia, so I didn't go to school here, but I did study here. So let's just say that at a university level, women are not really taught how to go into a conversation. And especially for what was the downside of the industry a few years ago, was that when somebody is a junior in a role, they are new to the industry, they have few years experience versus 30, 40 years of experience that you would have for the CEOs and senior managers in investment conferences. So I found it really a struggle to at first make myself heard. Now I am 6 foot, so it is not something that I generally struggle in terms of being seen, but to have the courage and sort of the confidence to go into a conversation where you can sort of I'll use the word is like a boys group is together and try to go in there to have a conversation, and that was a real struggle. I'm not saying that I'm much better at it. I believe in fake it till you make it.
Yes.
And I do have some experience now behind me that helps me move in there, but it's that the part of getting into the conversation and making yourself heard, having the courage to even ask questions if you're not entirely sure on particular aspect that is covered, to learn more. That has been a challenge, but I am sort of happy that in my sphere on where the people I interact with and the conferences where I go and who's on advisory reports I am now, one of the aspects is what we are working on is making sure that anybody who's new to the industry and a junior, we bring them in. We would have an event where first timers are together.
Yes.
We will have sort of speed networking events,
Really good.
and we take time to in some ways also to incentivize the people who come to the events, that when somebody is younger, that their ticket to the event when they come with one of their seniors is cheaper than what the full ticket is. So to make sure that to improve on our experience, and yes, we know that when you are green, you are fresh out of uni. Like I said, I couldn't manage a business to save my life, but whatever the students have learned in uni, or if they come from different industries, to help them integrate to make sure that they have connections where they can talk
Mm.
and that they are included. So space is made for them. And when you feel seen and safe, you are more confident in asking questions and approaching people in a conversation. So I know it's not quite answering your question. I feel I count myself to be very lucky that I haven't had to struggle in that sense majorly because I'm a woman. Um, with some normal things on trying to work and get my salary to the same level, but yeah, sort of the personal larger struggle is to find my footing in the industry, where when you do walk into a room, a conference space where there's 2,000 delegates and 990 of them are all men.
Yeah.
So it takes
Testosterone, yeah.
it sort of takes a little out of you, and you kind of take a step back, go, whew, okay. um, but the good side of that is really that um, the industry is trying, and at least I feel, like I said, that when I sit on advisory boards for various investment events around hospitality, that one agenda point that always is covered now is, and I will say it's not because of me. It's not. I'd like to take that credit, but it is not for me. But how do we make sure that women are included, and how do we make sure that regardless of their gender, anybody who is new to the industry feels included and safe and gets an opportunity to learn from experienced people.
Thank you so much, Nelly. You've touched on so many important salient points. Not part of this, but I have a coaching practice, myself and my team, called the Reinvent New Experience, and basically it's corporate leadership coaching for women in leadership. And some of the struggles that you've talked about are some of the things that we try to address, where you can't be heard, or you're scared to be heard, or when you are heard, someone will say, well, what Nelly's trying to say, and like, no, don't tell me what I'm trying to say. So you've got all that, or you've got a situation where you're trying to say something and someone feels, or a group might feel, that you are being rude or you're being undermining, but you're just trying to be heard. And so you kind of recoil back into yourself. I better not say anything. So, I don't want, so I get that. And I think many women face that, no matter what level they are. They face it at home with their families, and then to be in the workplace or to be on a board or something. It's something that many women, especially women at at high level, face. So it's quite interesting that you mentioned that. But it's also important that when we say, as an organization, it doesn't matter which organization, when we say that we really are really passionate and committed to inclusion, it has to be, you have to be seen to be doing proactive activities. And I like the fact that you're saying, they do, buddying up, and and making people take people around, do proper inductions and stuff like that, and make the junior ones feel that, look, you can be part of it, which is really, really good. And I'm hoping that as leaders listen to this, whether on LinkedIn or later on, you'll also think about strategies that you can use in your industry, in your organization, to ensure that not just the young people, people that are fresh out of uni, like we've just had people that have just finished right now, who will be starting new jobs and new roles, that you make them feel it's not just enough for them to have the book knowledge. They may have a 2-1 or a first class, but they also will be feeling very intimidated. So you need to bring them on board. Women the same way, go to meetings, and some women will have lots of important things to say, lots of valuable things, sometimes more valuable than the men in the room. But you might say something and you get shouted down, and then you're like, so you keep quiet. So it's interesting that you made all those points. And oh my days, look, when we're having fun, the time goes so quickly. If I haven't said hello to you, hello Cindy from Texas, hello Peppy from Bedfordshire, hello Dorothy, hello Sade, thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you've got any final questions you want to ask, put them in the comments. Try and squeeze her dry before she leaves. I was trying to get that secret about when I should book my hotel room, but she's not going to tell me. I'll have to bribe her. But anyway, if you've got any comments you want to just quickly put them, about to wrap up. Oh, Nelly, I could just listen to you forever. I really can, really, really, really can. We've talked about challenges. We've talked about how we've touched on how businesses can strike a balance between, data analytics, personal and human hospitality, and how you can leverage technology. We touched on that a little bit. And so what I would say, looking to the future, and you've touched on that, how do you see the future, in your opinion, the future of hospitality evolving with the increased use of technology? Obviously you're Estonian, so I'm going to ask you about technology, because if you don't know it, I don't know who else will. And what advice would you give to people listening right now, or to younger ones coming up?
So the major thing that is being discussed right now is AI, and that needs a lifetime to discuss. But there are some amazing companies who I heard a test call where somebody rang a reservations line in a hotel and did the whole booking with AI without them even knowing, because the AI literally sounded just like a human, asked questions just like a human. So it is for in hotels and in businesses, cost cutting is always a big thing, and one of the larger line items in terms of cost is always labor and staff.
Yes.
So I do think, depending on what type of a hotel you are, if you are an economy hotel, and if the visitors normally coming there is just a one night stay, they're on the way to somewhere, you do have options where you can go, potentially look at self-service check-in, and having sort of quite limited human interaction, and it can actually work really well. I guess if it would be in a city center, you would have to think of your target audience. You have to make sure that everybody is tech savvy enough.
Yeah.
But if you are a type of establishment where guests would stay for a longer time, then cost cutting is still important. But the number one thing about hospitality is people and connections. And I cannot imagine having a great holiday in a hotel where I do not talk to the reception staff, I do not talk to the bar staff. The cocktails may be fantastic, but it immediately will make me think it's pre-made, and it sort of takes away a little bit of that experience. So the challenge will be on how to make sure that humans are positioned in positions where the guest will still feel that connection, but equally in roles where we do not need a person, and how to use tech to sort of fill that gap. So I know Said said she's a front house receptionist, my favorite job, I want to say, in the whole world. But that's the number one thing people see when they go to a hotel.
Yes.
It is the reception desk, and you can absolutely, if you're traveling for business, you've had a bad day, you don't want to talk to anyone, self-service is amazing. You can quickly get to the room. But when you want to find out where are the best places to go and have food outside the hotel, you want to ask about, well, what will the weather be like? What's the atmosphere? A lot of those things, yes, it can be answered by a screen, but it's not the same. So tech will play a big role, an increasingly big role, whether we will know it or not. Are we talking to a res agent that is AI or that is a person? But we can't take away the human interaction while we stay in any hotel, or we eat in any restaurants.
Absolutely. And maybe 50 years from now that might change, but I guess, just listening to you, I'm very like yourself, I'm very relational. I like to speak to people. So if I go to a hotel, even if I go to a conference, if something goes wrong, I don't want to be typing anything or pressing 0. I want to be speaking to someone, because I believe if I speak to you, you'll understand. Because obviously, if AI is fantastic, and I do know a lot about AI, but you still want to make sure that my situation is unique. There might be something just a little bit different, that when I speak to you, it's not going to be like a script. It's just like when you call 111. This is long before AI, and you're speaking to someone, and they say, well, you need to do this, that, and the other. And they're not listening to you. Or even if they are listening to you, you feel as if they're not listening to you, because everyone wants to feel precious and treasured and special. And so I guess, just listening to what you're saying, at the end of the day, organizations, industries have to look for a way of making sure that their guests feel special and unique, but they also get their bottom line, and then their staff also feel special and unique. So it's a difficult one, but for those that have their ear to the ground, they'll be able to do that. And last but not least, what would be your key one message or key takeaway for people, especially for women, young women listening?
To make sure that you speak up. When somebody would say you are emotional or you don't know what you're talking about, take a breath and say, I'm not, and I know what I'm talking about. It is very challenging at first,
Yes.
but being quiet and allowing the masses to talk over you is not an option.
I like that. Speak up and don't let anyone speak over you. Fiddling around here because I've just realized woman in tech that I hadn't plugged in my I mean, we're right at the end of the show, which is good, but I didn't want it to just suddenly disappear. Right. Fantastic. Right. So Nelly, thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. I've had a blast. I've learned so much. I never thought I would learn as much as I've learned. And listeners, I hope you've had a lovely time as well. Please, you can put your comments anywhere, whatever social media platform you see this on, or on the replay. And if people want to reach you, can they reach you on LinkedIn if they had any questions?
Yes, they can. Just look for my name, and luckily, I should be the only one who shows up.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for watching. This will be uploaded also on Spotify, so you can listen to the audio when it gets up. But in the meantime, you can watch again on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. And we will see you again next time with a cup of tea with me and my amazing guest, Dr. Zee. I'm not the guest. It's Friday. Thank you so much, Nelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Zee. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's welcome. You've been fantastic. You really have been.
Thanks for listening to A Cup of Tea with Dr. Zee, your reinvention queen. We hope you've been motivated and inspired to go out there and conquer any obstacles and issues you may face. You can find Dr. Zena on all social platforms. Until next time, remember, you're not alone.